And welcome to everyone. I'm Ken Brecker, the president of the Library Foundation of Los Angeles. And what you're supporting this evening is the largest, most diverse library audience in America. 73 libraries crossing our city. And in each library, everyone is welcome. And I can't think of a better example of democracy. You know, they can take your home away and they can take your job away, but they can't take your library away. This is the case, and also why every student, for the first time ever, every student in the Los Angeles Unified School District has been sent a library card. And that's because of our city librarian, John Szabo, right there. Atlanta's loss was our gain. And I also want to say, I don't think these words have been said before, but seated in the balcony is Bishop Blake and Lady May Blake. We are so honored to be in your church. There's something absolutely, well, it's full of grace. And we thank you very much for welcoming all of us. And to begin tonight's program, and we'll get right to it, is the director of our public programs, also returned to Los Angeles after many years, Jessica Strand.
Thank you, Ken, so much for that wonderful introduction. Welcome. This is amazing. I am so excited. This was all a pipe dream 9 months ago when James Fugate of SO1 Books and Liz Neustadt of Chevalier and I came together to discuss doing an event for Ta-Nehisi's first novel, The Water Dancer. And here we are, over 3,000 people later. I can't believe it. I am grateful to both of you for this evening. And I also want to thank my team who has helped me make this event a reality. There are very few times in our lives when we get the opportunity to see and to listen to two of the most influential artists of our time, artists who are illuminating our world with fresh and transformative ideas. Tonight, we're all very lucky to be here. Ta-Nehisi Coates is the author of The Beautiful Struggle, We Were 8 Years in Power, and Between the World and Me, which won the National Book Award in 2015. He is here this evening, I know I'm repeating myself, with his first novel, The Water Dancer. He will be in conversation with Ryan Coogler, who is a film director, writer, and producer. His films include Fruitvale Station, Creed 1 and 2, and last but not least, Black Panther. The latter of which broke box office records and was one of the highest grossing films of all time. Let's let the show begin. Would you please put your hands together and welcome Ta-Nehisi Coates and Ryan Coogler. Thank you very, very much.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Wow, it is a lot of people. Wow, and I got an echo. Whew, okay, I'm nervous.
Me too. Thank you guys so much for being here with us tonight. It's an honor for me to interview this incredible artist right here. It's also somebody who I call a close friend. So it's just really special for me. How many of you guys have read the book, like finished it? Because like spoilers. Show me your hands. I just want to. Okay, not many are done. How many of y'all are like halfway through it? Anybody halfway? Okay. All right. Everybody has it though, right? Y'all all got the book. All right, bet.
Me and Ryan had this whole conversation before about spoilers and what not to spoil, but y'all just gonna have to roll with us tonight. I'm so sorry. You might have to cover your ears at certain points, you know what I mean? But I was in Philly, and not to. Wait, you gotta hear the story first though, because you might not want to claim Philly. Not to spook you out, bro, but this dude who I was doing it with, he was like so excited about the book. And he started spoiling, and they booed him. They booed him. I'm sure that's not gonna happen here.
Yeah.
That's probably the last thing you needed to hear before we get started. But just a possibility. It's a thing that happens.
Yeah. So Ta-Nehisi is one of the few writers who's had a nonfiction book debut at #1, and now a fiction book debut at #1, and both within a few years of each other. But just want to talk a bit about craft. Like what was different about writing this book, as opposed to Between the World and Me?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I did not really, make my career as a fiction writer. It wasn't really like a thing that I actually even thought it was really possible for me, honestly. But I think a couple things happened at once. After I published my first book, The Beautiful Struggle, my agent suggested that I try fiction out. And at that exact same point, I was in an employment situation in which I had quite a bit of time to read, and I was reading a lot about slavery and a lot about the Civil War and doing a lot of blogging about it. And I became captivated in a way by it. And I think the first thing that happened, actually, Ryan, was like understanding what the Civil War was about, like understanding that this was a war about slavery and nothing else. There was no excuses, no ifs, and buts about it, no states' rights, no taxes and tariffs. All the taxes and tariffs was about slavery and cotton. All the states' rights was about holding slaves. And like getting that, but then interfacing with the culture and feeling like, with that said, all of the like glamour and swagger and the, sort of cultural mystical heroes were actually from the army of enslavement. You think about like Gone with the Wind, for instance. You know what I mean? I believe like after the Bible, the Gone with the Wind is the most like printed book in the English language. In many ways, it's just a justification for enslavement. You think about like Noble Robert E. Lee and the General Lee and Dukes of Hazzard. You think about a state like Tennessee where Nathan Bedford Forrest, who founded the Ku Klux Klan, has more statues than anybody in that state's history. And that man was a terrorist, And so it got locked in my brain even as I was doing the fiction piece that myth and symbol was all awarded to like the people that had done, really, really horrible things. And they were using myth and symbol to make themselves up. And so they were the heroes of the story, And so that clicked something in me, you know what I'm saying? And I think, like we've talked about before, like both us coming up with comic books, the relative paucity of black folks in those books. And so I felt the need there. And then the final thing that happened was in the course of writing nonfiction, I realized that some people are impervious to facts. Just are. So, I mean, you can say 1 + 1 = 2, and they'll just look at you and say 3. And there's nothing you can do to make them not say 3. And I had that situation over and over again, and I began to ask myself, well, why are they saying 3? And it became clear that that was because there was something invested in them saying 3 that went beyond facts. That if they were to say 2, it actually would mean some sort of loss or some sort of painful thing, something beyond, the recognition that you're right. And so just to, take this back to the example I was working with the Civil War, I mean, we had all of these documents, all of these facts. This is what the war was about. This is why it happened. People say, nah, it wasn't about that. You could show it in the hand and in the writing of the people that started the war. We are fighting this war because it's about slavery. We want the right to hold black people as slaves. I mean, I'm almost quoting verbatim. People just look at you and be like, nah, it's not what it was about. And so it's like, well, what is that? Like, that's a place that my nonfiction can't actually touch. Nonfiction is about just lining up the facts. And what became clear was that it was something deeper actually happening. And the deeper thing that was happening was, if I say the Civil War is about slavery, now I got to look at everything different now. Now I got to look at my country different. Now I got to look at the heroes I was raised on different. All of my myths, I got to interrogate, you know what I'm saying, in a different way. So when I went to the water dance, I mean, part of the idea was, okay, maybe we can have different myths then. Maybe we can have, different ways of being. And if I could do that, maybe I could get them to 2, Maybe I could get them back to that.
Right. That's incredible. I think a lot about that. It's that book, Sapiens, where like the argument is that the fact that we can be tricked in the myth is kind of like, I'm paraphrasing it, but it's kind of like what makes us human. It's what makes us so powerful.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like, there's just things you can't. I was reading a piece today, and it was like a critical piece of Barack Obama and his presidency. And it was actually a really remarkable piece. It was a really, really good piece, talking about, everything that was missed, why things didn't go the way people wanted it to go. But the writer, who was white, and I just want to be clear, it was a really, really good piece. It was, not real talk, it was. It was. I just sent it to my friends and said, this is great. And then I said what I'm about to say here. He could never reckon with what it meant to have a black president. Like, for him, it's like, I'm seeing the same old policies that didn't go as far as I wanted them to go, but it's just some dude who's black. But, like, what he doesn't understand, or what he was missing, is what that meant for the imagination. Like how we take our cues from what we see around us. So there's like this view of politics that says you go into the voter booth, vote for, your choice of candidate, you support your policies you want to support, and then, that's politics. But around that, like surrounding that and surrounding those choices, all of that is bounded by myth. All of that is bounded by what you think of as actually possible. So if you never actually see a black president, it actually is quite hard to imagine one. I think, for instance, if you go back and watch all of the films, like of how a black president has been imagined, none of them was Barack Obama. Like not one, not one. Like wasn't even close. Well, I mean, I don't fault folks for doing that. I mean, because when they're trying to imagine it, if you ain't seen it, it's really, really hard to do. And so in that sense, I think, I don't even know if it's a trick, Ryan. I mean, I feel like that's just an integral piece of how people interface with the world. I think about, I hope I'm not sharing nothing too private here, but I think about like how when Panther was out, and you was telling me how it was inspiring folks. Certainly it was inspiring us to wear our cultural sort of garb, but you would go to other countries and folks would feel that same pride. You understand what I'm saying? Like in imagining us in one way, it kind of almost freed them to imagine themselves as something bigger. So I think it's integral.
That's really great stuff, sir. It's not every day you get to interview a certified genius,
Come on, man. Come on.
So just like we can get off craft for a sec, but I'm incredibly curious. Like, how long did this take you to write?
Man, so this was and that's why, you know, for your compliment, it took 10 years. So you got 10 years to think about something. I mean, you can come up with some decent answers, you know what I mean? You might actually have something to say about that process, you know? Yeah, I mean, I think like...
And like where? Like 10 years where you, like in what places were you writing?
Yeah, so like...
Was it on a laptop?
It was, yeah, I mostly used to... I mostly...
Same laptop for 10 years?
There's a subtext that's going on here. I don't know if you're picking up. We've been having conversations about this conversation for some time. That is the subtext of this conversation. Anyway, yes, it was on a laptop. It was not on the same laptop for 10 years. But no, you know, honestly, I mean, this kind of take you back to your craft thing.
Yeah.
I, like, don't have a ritual. So like some of this is like handwritten. Like I got actual, like I was on this thing where I would have these like art pads for a while. And I would just scribble in the art pads and stuff like that. Some of it actually was on a laptop. I got like undiagnosed ADHD. And so I'm dead serious. And so I have to switch it up, you know what I mean, to keep it going. So sometimes I would like take a laptop, go to the coffee shop, you know, and write for a while, and then that would get too much. I would come home. You know, towards the end, I had a desktop. I would sit at the desktop. I think I sent a picture of this to you one time. I had like dice on the desktop. I would roll the dice, you know what I'm saying, to distract. You know what I mean? So I would actually have to vary it up. But can I ask you a question? Can I put you on the spot real quick?
I don't know.
Let me ask,
Yep.
and then you can decide if you want to answer.
All right.
Do you have I've actually never asked you this. Do you have a ritual? Do you got to do it the same way?
I do.
Okay. Are you going to share it?
I mean,
Is that like in the vault?
I gotta wake up. I gotta wake up and I gotta get started early. You know, like usually I do some kind of physical activity.
Okay, so are you jumping rope, burpees? What's going on here? Push-ups?
I mean, lately football kind of like messed my back up pretty good. So
Okay.
lately it's like the elliptical.
Okay.
It's like a nice walk, like a nice stroll. Yeah, you know, but I try to get to it early. You kind of advise me on that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm smarter in the morning. I'm smarter in the morning, you know. And for a long time, I thought something was wrong with me, and then I heard Toni Morrison say that, and I was like, oh, I must be good. I'm okay. I'm in decent. Nah, it's like, and then like lately, sorry, this is getting a little nerdy here, but
How many writers in the audience? Gotta be a few.
oh, so there it is. There it is. Now we're in good territory. So lately, one of the things I discovered, and my wife put me onto this, and it took years for me to get this, is if I took a nap, like even 30 minutes, if I get a nap in, I actually could get a second wind. And I would wake up, and I would suddenly be sharper. I spent a lot of time as a young, like, writer, like just, man, I would like be writing and I would get sleepy. And while I was working on The Water Dancer in the early years, and my answer was like to drink more coffee and then just power through.
That'll do it.
Yeah, when you're young, but then you realize, you know what I'm saying? It's a smarter way. So lately the thing on ritual I've been on is like you just take a 30-minute nap, and it's like, you know what I mean? Your brain's back on, you know?
And at what point in this, did you think that you had something?
Wow, that's a great question.
I remember you sharing with me, like,
Yeah.
sharing it with your wife. And
Yeah, but probably like a year ago. I mean, I thought, so one of the big themes in the book is this idea of like memory. And memory is the thing that, well, let's just say, I mean, I don't want to get Ryan booed over here, and I don't want to get myself booed. let's just say memory is very important, in the book. And once I figured out how that was going to work, which I figured out, relatively early on, I thought, wow, that would be awesome. Like, that would be great. But I didn't know if I had the ability to execute, in that way. Like, when I talk about the book now, I tell people, I say, listen, this is the story of Hiram Walker. He's an enslaved man, antebellum Virginia. He has a preternatural sense of memory, but he can't remember the thing that's most intimate to him, and that's his mother and what happened to his mother. But I didn't have that until like last year. I mean, I'm dead serious. I had been writing for like 9 years, and it wasn't until like the last year that I got it. I mean, and just on that, if you just allow me just to say something, like, because I know Ryan asked how many young writers there are in the audience, and bro, I think you would back me up on this. I think like one of the things that young writers really got to get is that like there's writing and then there's revision, and the revision might be more important than the writing. And that's really hard to see, because I think what happens a lot of times, I know this happens with me, you write your draft and it's terrible. I mean, just bad. Like, you'd be like, I might, call Ryan up, say, yo, I got an idea to do da-da-da-da. He say, yo, yeah, that's great. You should go write it. And then you sit down and write it, and it's like, this sounds nothing like what I told that man this was going to be. It's not even close. And I think a lot of times, like, if you know what I mean? Like, especially if you, like, studying somebody else, you reading somebody else, you're like, yo, this is where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to get it to sound like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard. It's like really, really hard. And so you say, well, I guess I'm not a writer. I guess I can't do this. But the way writing actually works is it's not, like, you can't talent your way to writing. It's built. It's a built thing. It's a made thing. So the real thing you got to do is you got to come back to that bad writing, and you got to revise, and you got to hope that you can get from bad to not so bad. You know what I'm saying? And that's progress. And then you try to go from not so bad to middling. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe you can go from middling to mediocre, and that's progress. And then maybe you can go from mediocre to almost good, and then from almost good to, wow, I could actually show this to somebody without embarrassment. and that's writing, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of times, again, I'm not trying to put Ryan's business out in the street, but I think, or maybe I am.
I got it coming to me. It's good.
I think, a lot of times you'll look at folks, and I know just in our interaction, like even when you get to a certain level, we all have moments where it's like, nope, this is it. This is like when they find out it was all a fraud. Jig is up right now.
Genius Grant.
Genius Grant, they're going to take it back.
Give it back.
They're going to like debit my account for that grant. You know what I mean? Come seize everything, and it was a fraud. The whole thing was a fraud. But once you realize that, like, a large part of it is just being able to endure your own terribleness and keep building and keep building and keep building. Like that's what the writing is. So like when you ask me, like, when did, bro, it really was like a year ago. I was like, oh, this is a book. This is a book. Everything else, it was like, this is a manuscript.
Right.
It has a beginning, middle, and end, definitely.
Right.
I'm not sure it's a book.
Right.
And that's just how it is,
So let's get into the story. I mean, I found the writing in this to be beautiful, and I think with slave stories, slave narratives, I always gotta like get myself ready for it. Whether it's a movie, whether it's a documentary, whether it's in this case a book, and it actually gets tougher the older I get,
Yeah. Wait, can we hold that for a second?
Yeah.
So like when you say like you got to get ready and it's tougher, like what's in your head?
So much, man. But I think if I would have put it into words, and I thought I was gonna interview you tonight, man, so I wasn't really prepared. But if I was to put it in words, the whole ride here, I was like, I'm not gonna let him Jedi mind trick this interview, like, and it's happening. Yeah, but if I was to put it in words, I think I'm preparing myself for experience and trauma of characters that I'm gonna strongly identify with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the, you know, like. So I had this, you know, I had this book. I had this book for a long time, and I just finished it today. But like, you know, it was a part of being busy, but also a part of like getting myself ready, because I know you can write really well, and I know that's a part of, you know, look, somebody I was related to went through this shit.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you know, for me to get here and it wasn't long ago. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of the residue, a lot of the systems are still in place and directly affecting my life.
Right.
So like,
Right.
no, it's a preparation, and what I wasn't, you know, that institution doesn't work without violence.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that
Right.
tends to be the part that is the toughest to see. You know, I think it's a necessary part when you're telling those types of stories.
Right.
But what I wasn't ready for was the type of violence that this book centered on, which is not physical violence but emotional. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to draw you out a little bit, because I thought I knew what you were saying, but I wasn't. So it's an interesting thing, man. I mean, I knew on some level it was gonna be hard to get people to read a book on some level, not on every level, but it was gonna be hard to get people to read a book about enslavement. And I think that's because there are, as you just articulated, it's not abstract for us, it's like right there.
Right.
It's right there. I mean, it's not, you know what I'm saying? This is not, you know what I mean? I mean, white people had the advantage of saying that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you live where we live,
Yeah.
you know, which is the real world, and it's a trip, because they be like, slavery was a long time ago, but George Washington is really important. And it's like, yo.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, so that's the first thing, right? It's like, yo, this is us. Like, this is our thing, right? And so, but the second level is, I think, like, I've been thinking a lot about this. And I think for a long time, there was this era where folks didn't want to talk about it, right? So it just went untalked about, right? Even though there was literature and evidence of it out there in the visual realm, and in the, I would say even in the fiction realm, like certain things I don't think were talked about as much. And then when folks started talking about it, I mean, they went right to the visceral. They went right to the physical violence, right?
Right.
So, like, in our mind, if I would suspect it if I started polling black folks in this room and I said, give me the first words you think about when I say slavery, they say whips, say chains, they say rape. You understand what I'm saying? Like, those are the keys, right, in your head. So I come to you, I say, yo, I got a book about slavery. Because you say, oh man, I gotta do this again. Look, this is real. I still ain't watched 12 Years a Slave. And and that's not a shot at the film, right? It's like, yo, come on, man, I know what this is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I can go there. So when I was writing the book, two things happened. I felt, I mean, if I could just borrow from your world for a little bit, like, there are things that happen, but you can shoot it a certain way. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you make choices with your camera.
Right.
About
What you show.
what you show, what you don't show,
Yeah.
how you show it, you know what I mean? You make choices. So that was the first thing. I made choices. So that, you know, all of that's in there. Rape, chain, but there are choices made.
Right.
You know, about what's shown, what's not shown, how it's depicted. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I think what you're talking about too is like people talk about you know, a lot of artists talk about the danger of a single narrative. And like, I think what's great about right now, when we have like a lot of different artists, you know, working in different mediums and sometimes exploring the same subject matter, you get to explore different facets of it. Because like the physical aspect of it was very real.
That's right, and that needs to be shown.
Yes.
And that needs to be shown, right.
But I had never, you know, like I had never seen a work that was like very razor sharp focus on the emotional.
Yeah.
Like this, you know.
Yeah, and that was, so like what happened was when I started rereading and I was like doing my research, as bad as the whips was, as bad as the chains was, as bad as, you know, working can't see to can't see was, as bad as the rape was, and it was. And I want to be clear that, you know what I mean, like we need art that shows that. I'm not advocating that not be shown. But what got me, and what I felt like actually got a lot of people I was reading about, was the destruction of family. It was, they sold my kid. They sold my wife. They sold my husband. And I try to explain to people like, how you got to think about this, okay? You're talking about an era in which, I mean, today you lose touch with somebody. Let me go on Facebook and find them. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no Facebook, no internet, no phone. You know what I'm saying? There are a few letters that exist. We got that. But for the most part, if you are enslaved in Virginia, somebody sells your kids into South Carolina, into Mississippi, into Tennessee, that's as good as them killing your kids. You're never gonna see them again. You know, as a historian, Eric Fauna, he talks about how well into the early years of the 20th century, there were still black people placing newspaper ads in black newspapers trying to track down folks that they had lost. So that was like, that got me, you know what I mean? Like that really, really hit me in a kind of way. And as you said, I felt like I hadn't really, like I had, you know, seen the work that had looked at the physical and how bad it was, you know what I mean? And once again, because I don't think it's like, as you say, one or the other, you know?
Yeah.
But this was like I wanted to go here. I thought it was an opportunity to write a different kind of, you know, book about enslavement.
Well, I mean, what's beautiful about it, and I'm still processing it because I literally just finished reading it, you know, in the parking lot.
He's not joking.
Yeah.
Not joking.
But what's, I'm still, you talking about it, and things are still hitting me. And what I'm truly realizing is that this pain is a human pain. You know what I'm saying? It's focusing on this part of it actually humanizes these characters.
That's right.
Because
right.
like I love dogs, you know, so I grew up with dogs, raised dogs, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if somebody was to be violent towards a dog right now, you know what I'm saying? Like the dog feels that, you know what I'm saying? The dog is gonna let you know that it feels that, you know what I'm saying? And even like emotional stuff, you know, animals that aren't as intelligent as humans feel, you know what I mean? Like anybody who got a pet, you know, knows that pet, at the end of the day, the pet misses you, you know what I'm saying? But like the depth of human relationships, you know, it's so profound. And in this book, you see that you know, along with the physical realities of the violence, you know, the destruction of those relationships, just rests at the center of the practice.
Yeah.
You know.
No, and that's a great point you made about the whole family piece. I felt like, everybody understands that. We spend a lot of time talking about craft. This brother is an incredible, incredible storyteller. And whenever I'm struggling with something, Ryan has this rule. I'm giving up all the secrets tonight, but Ryan has this rule.
I got no secrets, bro. You good.
Ryan can tell you in one sentence what Black Panther's about. I'm not gonna make him do it, but he can tell you in one sentence what that movie's about. He can tell you in one sentence what Creed is about. He can tell you in one sentence what Fruitvale is about. And he has like this rule that you got to be able to boil it down to one sentence, and the sentence has to be active, you need verbs, you know. And so when I say I didn't get this until the last year, I mean, a lot of it was out of conversations with him in the sense that, how do I boil this down? What happened to Hiram? What am I actually talking about? What's the specific theme that I'm coming back to? You know what I'm saying? And usually that sentence is a sentence that anybody, you understand what I'm saying, can actually relate to, even though the sentence is being played out in very specific terms, being played out in Wakanda, you know what I'm saying, being played out in the ring, you know, it's actually something deeply, deeply specific and human. And so, well, I don't think I got one sentence. I don't think I can do that, bro. But I can say family, like I got that. I got, you know, the loss of family. Everybody in here can feel that. And you can see even to this very day, like in our politics, how that rings out, you know, this idea of family separation, you know?
Yeah, man, like I, you know, yes. Yes. No, you know, everything that you're saying, man, like, I mean, like, the thing about the thing about this system, you know, that was like an integral part of our country and its economy, and probably wouldn't exist without capitalism. You know what I mean? Wouldn't have ever existed without it, and still, you know, like, all this stuff still happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen photos of, you know, children riddled with bullets that was fired by employees of the state. You know what I'm saying? Like, recently, you know what I mean? I seen that now. That's a version of that physical violence. You know, or even the violence that happens to people that haven't had their lives taken, that you never, you know, see a tweet about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the physical is still around, you know. But man, like the emotional, man. Like I couldn't read this book, man, without thinking about mass incarceration. You know what I mean? Like I could not.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's actually a section that I want you to read.
Okay. Okay. So, there's a situation in which, how do I do this without getting booed?
You want me to tee it up? Or you got it?
No, I got it. So there's slavery in this book. Let's start there. All right? Slavery.
There's also water in it.
And there's some people that don't like slavery. And the people who don't like slavery have managed to free somebody. And the woman's name is Mary Bronson, the person that's been freed. And the people that have freed that person are named Otha and Raymond, and they're having a conversation. And what they're trying to get Mary to understand is that she really is free, that she's come to a place where she actually is free. You know what I mean? She's in a place where she can, you know, be part of a community. She can work for herself. She can work for her own labor. All the things that they think of is being free, she now has, okay? There's no master over her, no whips, no chains, no rape, none of that. And she ain't quite trying to hear it. So our narrator, Hiram, is explaining this and just taking us through, and he's watching, and he's trying to, you know, get this across. I'm actually gonna start like a paragraph up, okay? All right. She sobbed softly into her hands. Otha went over and sat next to Mary Bronson. Then he drew her close, held her, gently patting her back. As he held her, Mary Bronson wailed, and I heard in this wailing a song for her husband, her boys, and all her lost. I had never seen an agent do what Otha was now doing, comforting her, treating her with the dignity of a free woman, not an escaped slave. He rocked her in his arms until she was settled, and then he stood and said, "We shall have a place for you and your boys in the next few days. Raymond gone to get all that started. You and your son welcome to stay here until it's arranged." Mary Bronson nodded. "It's a good city, ma'am," said Otha, "and we are strong here, but I understand if you don't want to stay. Either way, we're going to help how we can. As you will soon see, finding freedom is only the first part. Living free is a whole other." There was a moment of silence. I had stopped writing, thinking the interview had now terminated. Mary Bronson had stopped crying now. She wiped her face with Otha's handkerchief, and then she looked up and said, "Ain't no living free unless I'm living with my boys." She had composed herself now, and I could see that her pain and fear was shifting into something else. "I don't want to hear about your church. I don't want to hear about your city. My boys, they the only city I need. Now you done found a way to get me out, and by God, I am thankful for it. I was raised correct, I am thankful. But my boys, all my lost boys, that is my highest concern." "Miss Bronson," said Otha, "we just ain't set up like that. That just ain't in our power." "Then you ain't got the power of freedom," she said. "If you can't keep them from parting a mother from her son, a husband from his natural wife, then you got nothing. That boy over there is my everything. I run for him so he might know some other world. Left on my own, I would have died as I was born, a slave. That boy freed me, you see, and I owe him so much. Mostly I owe him his pappy and his brothers. If you can't stop them from breaking us up as they do, if you can't put us back together, then your freedom is thin, and your church and your city hold nothing for me." So that was actually, I was glad you picked that, because one of the things that the main character Hiram is going through, you know, his dad is the owner of the plantation, and his dad has sold his mom away, and one of the things he's going through is he identifies with his dad, and he identifies with his dad as free, and he wants to be like his dad. And what he has to realize, and what he's beginning to realize in that passage you selected, is that sort of individual freedom just for me, is a kind of white freedom. It's his dad's freedom. And for him to come to the kind of truer freedom that he's searching, like, he has to think more collective. She's talking about something bigger, you know what I mean? Like, she's good, she's okay, individually she's okay. But what she's saying is, listen, if you ain't done nothing for my husband, if you ain't done nothing for my kids, if I got, you know, this boy I'm with, and you can't get his father back, you can't get his brothers back, it's not freedom. And that's a much more profound thing that Hiram has to get to, that the essence of it is family. And even in, you know, it's funny because you realize things as you go through. And that was so important to me, because I feel like in this society, and you brought up the latest instance of this, with mass incarceration, the destruction of family has, you know, basically been policy for most of American history, right? Like public and private policy. That's been what America has done. That's how it has addressed us. And yet, the same people that passed these policies to break up and destroy families are experts at telling black people that they don't love their families. You know what I'm saying? That they lack family values. You know what I mean? And when you go back and read this stuff, it's so clear and so strong and so potent. And so, like, I was really trying to, you know what I'm saying? Like get that across in that.
Well, I think you did it, man. So much I want to, you know, talk about, man. But I think I want to talk about therapy. Do you?
Wow, we doing this?
I
You didn't tell me that. You didn't.
No, I mean, I hadn't read the book yet. I
Wow. About to call my publicist up here, Greg.
I know, different question.
No, we're good.
Nah.
No, cool. I'm messing with
different.
you. Let's do it. No, that's good. I'm messing with you. You want to talk about therapy?
No.
I want to talk about therapy now.
All right.
Okay, all right, good. Got me all teed up about it? All right, let's do it. Not right now, but I should be. I'm a huge fan of therapy.
Ask me.
Are you in therapy?
Not right now, but I should be.
No, I'm actually a huge fan of it, and I think, I don't know how you came up in this respect, but I didn't come up with the idea that therapy should be any sort of priority.
Same.
Okay. And maybe there's some other people in here that came up like that, you know? And so even recognizing that it's important, it's one thing to say it's important, it's a different thing to actually prioritize it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I need it. Did you feel like when you finished the work, this brother needs therapy?
Nah, I didn't. I thought about how a lot of the dialogue scenes were, they kind of took that shape for me when I was looking at them. You know, like journalism came up a lot. The character has a photographic memory and often reads and for a section of the film, it's kind of something that he's doing in terms of doing interviews but I did think about how much emotional weight the protagonist was taking on in these stories of these human beings that he was coming across.
Yeah, because they're telling them horrible, violent things. I mean, they really are. He is, and that's the sense. That's where you get back to the camera and the whole violence, because it's there. He's hearing it. They're telling him. You know what I mean? Terrible, terrible things. And I would assert things that he has spent much of his life trying not to see. You know, I mean, that's the flip side of what I was saying earlier about the whole violence thing. I mean, it's tough, man, because it's like, I'm sorry I'm coming back to this, but the therapy question kind of got me to it. It's really tough because it's like, how do you depict violence on a people and not make that their identity? You know what I'm saying? Like,
great question.
Like when I was, you know, like in the instance of rape, there has been this movement over the past, I would say 10 or 20 years probably, to move away from the terminology of rape victim to rape survivor, right? And I don't think I ever really understood that. I would say it because it was, you know what I mean, polite. I believe in calling people what they want to be called. That's my theory on that, you know? But I don't think I got it. And then I was writing a book. And it was like, if I linger on violence with an individual too long, that's what you'll see for the rest of the book. And that'll become that person's name. You know what I mean? And there's a kind of reification of the crime when that happens, right?
Right.
You know, because just to, you know, take it back to the rape piece, I think I got this. It's like somebody does something to you, okay? And then the society sticks a label on you and say, you are the thing that this person did to you. So it's not just that somebody, you know, violated you, it's now your identity has been obliterated.
Right.
Like you're dehumanized by the way that somebody actually talks about it after you was dehumanized by the crime.
Right.
And like, that was like an ill thing for me because like, rape is so integral to African-American identity, right? Like in this, I mean, literally it's why we, you know, look the way we look. It's a huge, huge part of our history, you know? Huge, I mean, enslavement is rape, that's what it is.
Right.
You know? And so like in coming to that, like it was like, okay, how do I depict this terrible reality that people need to talk about, but not turn these people into the thing that happened to them?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, that's part of what makes the book so impressive, I think, because when I got done with it, you know, everybody's humanity was intact, you know, and that was like really, you know, really impressive.
I mean, it's just like Oscar, right? I'm sorry, I'm not to stay here, but it's like, all right, so we see a film, Oscar Grant, shot in the head. You know what I mean? Or shot in the chest, sorry about that. Yeah, that's who he is. but the film draws it out. You know what I'm saying? It shows him not perfect, not innocent angel,
Right.
but he becomes more than what that moment in time was. You know what I mean? Like an actual human.
Yeah.
And in that sense, the tragedy even hits harder. Like you was talking earlier about, you love and raise dogs. Dogs feel pain, repel from physical pain. But if you can draw out the actual humanity, now you're talking about the violation of something deeper.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. And like just like the complexity of human relationships. You know what I mean? Like, I love my dogs, but I don't know if my dog can miss his cousin. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if my dog understands what a cousin is. You know what I mean? But for us, and specifically Africans, you know what I'm saying? Like, and these were Africans that have been enslaved. Those West African cultures, those ancient cultures, family was just about everything. So for and it still is, it still is to this day, and I think
the kinship lines are very sophisticated. They go all kinds of ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what this book also does really well, it takes place over a pretty compressed amount of time, so it's a fast read. But how quick strong bonds can form. Like the human mind is so malleable. You know what I mean? Like this character calls several places home in this book. And it kind of becomes home that fast. Like right now, working on a movie in Cleveland, Ohio. If I close my eyes and say, man, I can't wait to get back home to my family. Oh, if I
shout out to Cleveland.
Yeah, bro, I've been in Cleveland for like 2 weeks. But if I close my eyes right now and I'm like, I can't wait to get back home to my family, what I see is Cleveland. You know what I mean? Like it happens. It happens that fast. Man, you've known each other a few years, but you're a dear friend at this point. And to think about, these human beings work the same way that we work now. Under this, I thought the book did a great job of that. Can we talk about, like, while I was asking about therapy, like suppressed memory? That's a big theme in this.
Yeah. So again, this is pretty early in the book. Like the protagonist Hiram, his dad sells his wife. His dad sells Hiram's mother. Forgive me. And that crime, or the way Hiram survives the violence of that crime, is he forgets his mother. He knows he had a mother, he knows her name, because he lives in a community of other enslaved folks who tell him, about his mother, but he can't conjure the image. Like, whereas the entire world lives for him in like colors, shapes, and images, not even in words. They live. It's like, it was funny because when I was writing it, I was trying to imagine a dude whose memory was like film, but I can't use the word film, right? Because it's, you know what I'm saying? But I tried to imagine that, you know what I mean? It's like film, that's how he sees the world. But when he sees his mother, all he sees is words. There are no images. There's nothing, you know what I mean, attached to it. What he says in the book is that it's just everything is fog and smoke. That's it. That's all he sees. He doesn't, you know what I mean? There's nothing else that he really is relating to. And what he has to realize is that in many ways, that was a choice for him. It was a choice for him to repress it, to not think about it. I think about because I think even now, our lives as black folks in this country are they're just violent. They're tremendously, tremendously violent, right? And so there's the visceral aspect of that violence, right? But I have things that happened to me on the street when I was a kid that when I think about it happening to me, I just feel an overwhelming sense of shame. Now, nothing I did necessarily. I did things that made me ashamed, but things that happened that I just think about. You know what I mean? And they just make you feel emotions that you really don't, make you feel anger, rage, all these things. And I'm talking about things that happened 30 plus years ago. You know what I mean? And how that sits with you. And then you try to take that back to the ultimate system of violence, enslavement. You know what I mean? And even though that's like the superlative of how we live today, so much of what we're in right now, like, is still there. And so when I thought about him burying his mother in his mind, in the down there of his mind, as he says, he's burying like his own helplessness. He couldn't save his mother. You understand? And that's just too much. In the way that I had certain situations that like I couldn't save myself. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I'm ashamed of that. I mean, you say, well, I mean, come on, Ta-Nehisi, how you gonna be ashamed of? But we don't interpret it like that.
Nah, yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't.
Being living your life.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so in many ways, like I was probably accessing like myself in that. You know what I mean? Things that, you know, had happened with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just getting into like stories and the power of like through the therapy, through the memory, through the
'cause that's what he's going through, right? Like he's actually going through a therapeutic process almost.
Yes, sir. I thought so.
Got it.
Yeah, and almost like he goes on this journey to unlock something in his mind.
Right, but he could just be laying on the couch. I mean, really, like.
I don't know.
Right, maybe not laying on the couch, but you know what I'm saying? Like metaphorically, you know.
Possibly, yeah. It's like a group session, maybe.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you know, what do you think is the importance of stories for this country?
Yeah, because that's a big thing in the book, and part of that therapy is the story.
Yeah.
So one of the ways he gets out is, or one of the ways he gets access, I should say, to things that he's forgotten is by realizing that he can't let go like that. The things that are most painful are also the things that are most precious. Like that's where all the juice is. You understand what I'm saying? Like it's in that discomfort. And I'm gonna get to the country thing. But part of this is like an artist, you know what I mean? Like it's like the things that maybe the things you don't want to touch. Like that's actually what you should be touching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
That's it's where the break is. You need to probe the break. Like you need to actually go there. And what he realizes is he has to tell like the whole story. Like not the edited story.
Right.
Not the story that, makes him feel good, not the story that's, a fairy tale. I mean, so again, going back to this contrast between the stories that his dad, and in that sense, the white enslavers tell, and the stories that he has to eventually tell. He talks in the book about how, like, man, these people, they fashion themselves as like knights and Camelot and they're noble. And this is real talk, by the way. This is actually in the history. Like they saw themselves as like a second coming of, European aristocracy. And everybody's a damsel in distress and, there's all of this gallantry and all of that. And meanwhile, black people are down here in the muck, as he says, in the dirt, where there's no nobility and there's no gallantry. And there's no, damsels, and there's no knight, and there's no, like all of that sort of finery and dress is not there. They just down here, you know what I mean, in their torn up clothes, in the muck, making instruments out of whatever they can get their hands on, making food out of, whatever they can get their hands on. But that the truth is actually there. The true, beautiful story is actually down there in the muck. It's not up there, because that's a lie up there. It's the muck that's true. You know what I'm saying? And that's like that's like where all our art is. I think about like I often say, like, if you remove black people from America, you don't have America, right? And that's that's true across the board on several levels, right? Like that's true about enslavement, true about our politics. It's just true across the board. But the area that I guess I'm really concerned about in this book is in the area of art. take black people out of America, you say black art out of America, America has no art. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's tough to, like, you pull out Billie Holiday, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we gonna do if we pull out jazz? You know what I mean? Like, we have a huge problem. You pull out, think of 20th century literature, and you pull out Toni Morrison, you pull out James Baldwin, like, you just subtract them, you got a huge problem. You know what I mean? And so it's very tough to think about American culture and American art without black people. And how can it be that the people who have had the least, the people who are at the bottom of every socio-economic category can punch so far above their weight in the realm of art? Like, how can that be? And I think it's because we live down there. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're in the muck of humanity. You know, we're in all of the mess and the, you know what I mean? The everything. We like, in being closer to the ground, we're closer to the most basic, you know what I mean, notions of humanity. And so I don't want to glamorize that. I'm not trying to glamorize poverty. I'm not trying to glamorize oppression. I'm definitely not, doing that. But I think, like, in Hiram's relationship, like, he has to realize that it's not was being advertised to him, that's the story he should embrace. And for me, like that was like, it was a great parallel to being black today. Because America, those who occupy the upper tier, they dress themselves in all sorts of finery. Wouldn't you want to be us? Why wouldn't you want to be us? Don't you want to be on this yacht? Don't you want to do X, Y, and Z? Don't you want to embrace, you know what I mean, everything that we've embraced? Don't you want to look like us? And what comes with that also is the degradation of black people, right? Our women are the most beautiful women. You know what I mean? Like, that's what comes with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Our men are the bravest and the most civil, like, all of this extra stuff.
Right. And,
like, we're conditioned with that. And the hardest thing to do is to get back to the muck. Like, to reject all of that, say, no, I'm in terms of my humanity, not in terms of what's being done to me, but in terms of my humanity, I'm actually better down here. There's more beauty here.
Right.
And so,
right.
Like, he has to embrace a certain story. That's what I'm trying to get to your question. He has to embrace and realize that the story is not up there. It's not the thing that's being sold to him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. But it is, in the book, it is like, I think about the most noble characters in the book. And the most noble characters in this book are the black women.
Right.
Like, it's not even close.
Right.
And I couldn't help but to not think, it was something that stayed with me. You know what I'm saying? Heavy. In the 20 minutes since I finished it.
About an hour.
Yeah, about an hour. So, but I think that I'd love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, that's I don't know why that is. I mean, you're right. I don't okay, I might have.
But it's not like it's not a false nobility.
No,
like
it's not. Right.
It's a very
and it's not like an untouchable sort of Madonna nobility. It's not. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I don't. It's tough because even though I wrote the book and I was done, there are things that happen in the book that I don't understand. I mean, you ever had that, like, things pop up in your art and they say, yo, this is what's going on, and you're like, I don't, like, that is what's going on, but I can't, I'm not really clear why that, like, it wasn't an intentional thing. I think my mom used to read romance novels, and when I was like a kid, like really, really young, like maybe like 18, I told her I was gonna write her like a romance novel for her one day.
Oh, that's great.
And when I gave her this book, I said, Ma, I finally did it.
Oh my God.
Yo, she got in like 2 chapters. She's like, it's not a romance novel. She's like, bro, you told me this was a romance novel, son. You know what I'm saying? And like, there's a particular scene, and this actually, I'm gonna, loop it back to your question about like depicting slavery. Like, there's these scenes where like like the card thing, and it looked like something really horrible is gonna happen. You know what I mean? All of the tricks of what you envision slavery to be like, it's all working on you. You think, man, this is about to go, you know, it's like what Chris Rock say, as soon as I hear yeehaw, you know, I mean, it's in trouble. So it's like one of those moments where you hearing the yeehaws, and it's like, oh man, something terrible.
It's when Hiram to do the.
When he going with the cards, and my mom was like, no, I'm putting this down. I can't go here.
Right.
You know, and then something else happens, and you know, the romance, you know, ultimately she agreed. But I think about like maybe like I was thinking about my mom. I definitely was thinking about my mom when I was writing the book. Hiram lost his mother. Much of what he's doing is not so much looking for another mother as looking for he's ashamed he couldn't protect his mom.
Yeah.
And he's looking for ways to like make up for that.
Right.
And that, a lot of times, is how he interacts with the women. It's through that lens. It's not even his mom as a person is he thinking about. He's thinking about his own, and that's, you know, he has to get to that too. It's his own shame over how he didn't protect his mom. You know?
Right. We talk about
which I think a lot of black men have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If not in the most literal way. Sometimes, you know, a lot of times in the literal way, but sometimes in something bigger too, you know?
Yeah, no, I got stories there, you know what I'm saying? Like, I identify with so much of this, you know? I identify with so much of this, man. Like, I remember one time, me and my now wife were having a conversation late at night out on the street. And we was in a place called Albany, California. Like it's like a city in between the big black cities in the Bay. And we got pulled over. I mean, we not pulled over. We were just sitting like it's like, yo, hop out the car, and it was cold. You know what I'm saying? And she was sick at the time. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. Like it had been something on it, like a robbery or some shit like that around. They said like I fit the description, hop out of the car, and then it was like, you know, she got to get out too. You know what I'm saying? And it was like me and my sick, you know, partner, like just sitting on the side of the street for like, you know, 45 minutes, you know. And I remember feeling like, you know, I was younger then. I had like a sense of chivalry that's, you know, falser than like what I'm holding on to, you know, now as I become more. You know, more enlightened when it comes to that stuff. But like, it's like this feeling of like just having no say, no control.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, over the situation.
Right.
Is I think a thing that's relatively unique to our culture.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, and I think that captures that for sure.
But you know what? Just real quick, you hit on something though right there, because it's like he has to like deal with that. And then at the same time, and we, you know, as brothers, like we have to deal with that and say, okay, how much is this about our ego?
Right.
How much is this actually about her?
100%.
Like, what's the conversation I'm having right now?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I love that, how the characters in this book challenge him there, you know. Specifically the love interest in the book.
Right.
It's like, you know, very clear in her knowledge of how men see her, and how that view carries across race.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that idea of, you know, you might be black but you still a man.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we
Right.
gotta get this.
Right.
We gotta sort that out.
Right.
You know,
Right.
which I thought was quite brilliant.
Right.
You know, back to this. Has I mean, I could not read this book and not think about capitalism. You know.
Yeah. Right.
And that idea of making it and still being unhappy.
Right. Right.
Because you connected to people that's on the other side.
Right. Right. And that's like, that goes back to the whole muck and the stories question, because what? I remember I read, I had to read a lot of slave narratives to research this, and like I read Frederick Douglass, he wrote,
Pretty good writer?
Yeah, pretty good writer. Pretty good writer. It's funny, if it was anybody a model for Hiram, it was actually, Frederick Douglass' story, but he's a pretty good writer. And he wrote 3 autobiographies, and in the last one, he talks about how, he gives this really vivid description. I wish I had it in front of me. He gives a vivid description of the plantation where he's living. And he's like going through all of the things they have. It's just all of the finery. He talks about the kitchen table and how, they were eating all kinds of fish, all kinds of meats, venison, trout, everything, desserts, pies, cakes, cookies. And he's talking about how all that rested on the labor of black folks. But then he says, the most degraded and beat down, enslaved person slept better than the master. And the reason why is because they have everything, but they've missed something in getting everything. You know what I mean? Like they, as you said, they have capital. They've gathered all the riches, all the resources. They got it. They won. You know what I mean? And yet, that happiness still eludes them. There's a point when one character is talking about, so, joke, dance is very important in this book. Dance is very important in this book. It's called The Water Dancer. Water also, but dance is important. And one of the moments is like there's a character and she's saying, listen, these people, they want this thing from you. They are infatuated by your music and your dance, and they can't get to it. They have everything and they can't get to that. They have stolen everything from you, but they can't steal that. They want to, but they can't figure out how to get it. They got all of the material stuff. They can put all the guns in the world to your head, but they can't, this thing you doing, they can't get to. And what she's saying basically is like all of that material won't get them there, because in order to have that material, in order to have that power, they have to forget certain things. They can't remember. And so much of the art, the dance, the music is actually based on the fact that folks have to remember. They're forced to remember. They're down here in the muck. They're seeing that, the trauma of humanity. But in order to dehumanize, they can't actually remember.
Right.
And so it's like you had to do all of these terrible things to get on top, to win. But in the process of winning, you've forgotten something. And in that forgetting, you actually can't, you can't get back to the thing.
How we doing on time?
I just got signaled.
You got signaled?
Yeah, it was like the hook.
Oh, for real? It's
Yeah,
like last
yeah,
question
it was like a hook. You know what I mean? It's about to.
Oh, man.
Sandman was about to come out, and you know what I mean?
Oh man. I mean, we could go on forever in this.
We get the hook though.
Yeah, but how much it is? It's things in here I don't want to spoil for folks, but it's a very, 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 very well-known black person, and that's a character in this.
Right.
And
somebody yelled it out.
Somebody yelled it out. Trying not to spoil. And how this character is treated, I thought was just very epic, and
yeah.
And to get back off of the topic of of race and state-sponsored trauma.
Right.
Where what kind of inspirations did you have for this?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's great.
Like,
yeah.
You had like a pop culture kind of vibe to it.
I mean,
you know?
like I feel like one of the things that we bond on is the fact so many of our influences are like the same, right? And so I felt like, I'm sorry, I just had to tell you guys to tell the story. And I'm so sorry. You'll forget it when you walk out. Harriet Tubman makes an appearance in this book. Oh, see that? I didn't get booed. Look at that. Somebody booed anyway. Harriet Tubman makes an appearance in this book. And I felt like a lot of what I had seen about Harriet Tubman, like it had been like this statue in marble. You know what I mean? Like it was like overly earnest. And that's, she's heroic, right? But like I kept thinking of like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like that was how I pictured Harriet Tubman, like with the robes or like with Gandalf with the staff. You know what I mean? Like that was my Harriet Tubman. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? And I don't know why, like when I read about her, one of the books I read was this History of the Underground Railroad. And this story is actually, this is history, so I'm not spoiling nothing. There's a moment, this happened. There's a moment when Harriet's got like a relative, and the relative's about to be auctioned. You know what I'm saying? And they're gonna sell her south, and it's like her brother's wife, and they gotta get to her, right? And what they do is they have the bidding, and the husband shows up. The husband's free, so the husband's bidding on his wife. They bid up, and they bid up, and they bid up the price. And eventually the husband's like, I'm sorry, baby, I can't do it. So they bid this enslaved person's price all the way up, okay? And the woman's like, this looks like this is it. So they take her off to the jail, and like the guards disappear. They go take a lunch break or whatever they do for some time. And Harriet comes and she gets the woman out. But in the process of getting her out, this dude still has to pay all this money. Yeah. So she's forced the guy to actually pay for nothing because they got the woman out. Yeah. And I just thought, man, that's like that's magic. You know what I mean? Like that was how it came across to me. Like she was so, for somebody who's presented as this kind of, illiterate, disabled, which she was. But she was like genius with hers, you know what I mean? And so when I thought about it, I was trying to avoid Harriet Tubman was born in this year, Harriet Tubman died in this year. You know what I mean? Like Harriet Tubman freed X number. Like I didn't want great Black history facts. Like I didn't want great Black history facts walking through a novel.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wanted excuse my language, I'm not gonna say that. I wanted a bad you-know-what walking through the novel. That's what I wanted. You know what I mean? Like with all of the sort of, adventure, and that's actually a part of where we started with moving the camera lens, dude. Like, this is, for all of y'all who ain't read it, this is an adventure story. It is a romance. You know what I mean? It's not it's not what they did to us. It's what we did. That's what this book about. The book is about what we did.
Right.
Right.
What we did to survive.
What we did to survive, yeah.
Yeah. I can't see the signals. Are we good to keep rocking?
No, I think she's
right?
signaling us, yeah. No, I think we gotta go.
We gotta go. Oh man. Yeah. It was so great talking in front of you guys, and thank you, bro.
Thank you, thank y'all, thank you.